For centuries, the galaxy trembled under the shadow of the predators. They were not a single species, but a coalition of the deadliest hunters ever to roam the stars. Clawed, fanged, armored in natural weapons, they believed themselves chosen by the universe to rule. Everywhere they went, weaker civilizations vanished. Worlds were stripped of life, space lanes became graveyards, and survivors whispered their name with shaking voices. To them it was not war, it was sport. The predators never saw themselves as conquerors. They saw themselves as apex hunters. Each hunt was a game, each slaughter a celebration. They tested themselves against prey, and when prey failed to resist, it only confirmed what they already believed, that they were invincible. No fleet could stop them. No army could match them. In their eyes, the galaxy was nothing but a hunting ground, and they were the masters of it. Across countless planets, aliens told children stories of the predators, warnings to stay quiet, to hide, to never attract attention. Civilizations surrendered at the first sign of their fleets, knowing resistance meant extinction. Entire cultures collapsed in fear before a single weapon was fired. That was the power of the predators. Fear. Fear so strong it killed hope before the first battle began. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, the topic of the predators was forbidden. Leaders avoided it, refusing to speak their names aloud. To admit their existence was to admit weakness, and weakness spread like a disease. But even in silence, everyone knew the truth. The predators ruled the galaxy not through diplomacy or law, but through terror. No one dared imagine a future without them. Yet the galaxy did not know that a new species had begun to rise, a species unlike any the predators had ever faced. Far away on a world they had ignored, humanity was stepping into the stars. Humans were small compared to the great predator lords, fragile compared to armored beasts, and weak compared to ancient empires. At least that was how they looked. But appearances in the galaxy were often lies, and humanity was a living contradiction. The predators had grown arrogant. To them, there was no prey left worth fearing. But arrogance is the enemy of hunters, for it blinds them to danger. When they finally noticed humans, they saw nothing but another weak race to consume. They sharpened their claws, eager to taste new prey. What they did not know was that the prey was ready to bite back. The first encounters were not great wars. They were raids. A predator pack descended upon a small frontier world, expecting screams and surrender. They did not find either. Instead, they found resistance. The humans fought, not with overwhelming strength, but with stubborn fury. They bled, they broke, but they refused to run. To the predators, this was confusing. Prey was supposed to fear. Prey was supposed to flee, but humans stood their ground. The raid ended with fire and loss, but for the first time the predators tasted something unfamiliar. Unease. It was not victory that lingered in their minds, but a question. Why did this prey not fear us? Whispers began to spread across the stars. Traitors, smugglers, mercenaries, they all spoke of a strange new species. Fragile bodies, yet fearless hearts. Small worlds, yet endless defiance. They called them the bipeds, for they walked on two legs, but the name human soon followed. And everywhere the name was spoken, curiosity mixed with dread. Alien scholars searched for answers. They studied human history, their wars, their survival on a world filled with storms, predators, and endless challenges. What they found shocked them. Humans had been hunters once, but more than hunters. They had been prey, too. They had learned to endure, to fight, to outsmart creatures stronger than themselves. They had evolved not just to survive, but to win against impossible odds. And now, those same instincts were carried into the stars. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy began to wonder if the predators' rule was not eternal after all. Their power had always rested on fear, but here was a species that did not bow, did not beg, and did not break. Humanity did not see predators as gods. Humanity saw them as just another challenge. The predators, of course, laughed at the rumors. They dismissed humans as a minor threat, a temporary obstacle. But deep inside their laughter, a shadow was forming, because somewhere, In the back of their minds, they knew what they had felt on that frontier world. It was not victory. It was not triumph. It was the first spark of fear, and fear once born never dies. The galaxy watched in silence, waiting for what would come next. For centuries, the predators had hunted every species without resistance, but now a new story was beginning. A story whispered in hidden corners, carried by frightened voices and hopeful ones alike. They hunted every species, until humanity hunted them back. The predators chose their target carefully. It was a small human colony on the edge of the galaxy, a settlement too far from Earth, too small to matter, and too weak to defend itself. To the predators, it was the perfect hunt. They came with fire, with claws and fangs, descending on the world like shadows from a nightmare. The skies turned black with their ships and the ground shook as they landed. The colony's walls were nothing but steel plates and sandbags. To the predators, it was laughable. But what they did not expect was how the humans would respond. When the first predator war cries echoed across the settlement, the humans did not scatter. They did not scream or run. They raised their weapons, farmers with old rifles, engineers with makeshift explosives, soldiers too young and too few to matter, yet they all stood together. It was not order, it was not strategy. It was stubbornness and unbreakable refusal to kneel. The predators struck hard. Their claws ripped through metal, their weapons burned through walls. But the humans fought with something the predators had never seen before: defiance. Even as buildings crumbled, even as their own people fell, they did not yield. They fought from rooftops, from basements, from the rubble itself. Every street became a trap, every house a fortress. The predators expected easy prey. Instead, they walked into a battlefield. The colony's leader, a scarred veteran named Captain Reyes, stood at the front line with a broken arm and a rifle that overheated after every shot. He shouted to his people, not with orders but with fire in his voice. "They think we are prey. Show them we are hunters too." His words lit something inside the colonists. They knew they could not win. They knew the predators were stronger, faster, deadlier. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that no one would bow. If this was the end, then it would be an end the predators would never forget. The battle raged for hours. Smoke and blood filled the air. The predators pushed forward with overwhelming strength, but every time they struck, humans struck back. A child threw a bottle of burning fuel at an enemy warbeast, and the monster fell shrieking. An old man collapsed, bleeding, but used his last breath to trigger explosives beneath an enemy tank. A young woman, armed only with a knife, leapt at a predator twice her size, refusing to let it pass. The predators began to hesitate. This was wrong. Prey was supposed to break. Prey was supposed to beg. Yet these humans did neither. They laughed through broken teeth. They cursed through blood. And they kept fighting, even when death was certain. The predators had crushed countless worlds, but never had they faced prey like this. Finally, the predators broke through the last wall. The colony lay in ruins. Fires burned across the settlement. Bodies lined the streets. The predators roared in triumph, but their victory was hollow. For as they looked at the surviving humans, standing tall even in defeat, something pierced their hearts. It was not the satisfaction of conquest. It was something else, something they had never felt before. It was fear, because the humans did not look defeated. They looked hungry, hungry for revenge. Captain Reyes, barely standing, glared at the predator commander. His voice was weak, but his words cut like a blade. "You think this is over? It has only begun. Hunt us, and we will hunt you." The predators left that world, but not as victors. They left haunted. Haunted by the faces of prey that did not fear death. Haunted by the promise of vengeance. When word spread of the battle, the galaxy trembled. Entire civilizations could not believe what they heard. The predators had won, yes, but they had been scarred. Prey was never supposed to scar the hunter. Yet the humans had done it. On distant worlds, alien leaders whispered to each other, If humans can fight like this while weak, what will happen when they grow strong? The predators dismissed the questions in public, laughing at the idea that such fragile creatures could matter. But in private, among their own kind, they admitted what none dared say aloud. Something had changed. For the first time in centuries, the hunters had met prey that fought back, and the predators did not know it yet. But that first clash was only the beginning of a war that would change the galaxy forever. The first clash had ended with smoke and ashes, but the galaxy did not forget what it had seen. The predators won the battle, but they left with something they had never carried before: doubt. For centuries, their hunts had been easy. Every species broke under their claws. But humans had not broken. They had bled, burned, and died, but never surrendered. That was not victory. That was a warning. The warning spread. Refugees whispered about it in dark spaceports. Traders carried the story to distant colonies. Soldiers repeated it in hushed voices before battle. Soon, every corner of the galaxy knew of the strange bipeds who stood against the invincible hunters. At first, many laughed. How could such fragile creatures matter? But as more reports arrived, the laughter died, for each report carried the same message. The humans fought back. In the beginning, it was small acts. On frontier worlds, predator raiders would land expecting easy prey, only to find traps waiting for them. Mines hidden in the sand, explosives, rigged to fuel lines, snipers firing from cliffs. The predators, used to overwhelming force, were caught off guard. Losses began to mount. And when the predators retreated, the humans did not hide. They chased them. Then came the alliances. Weaker species who had once cowered under predator rule began to look at humanity differently. The bipeds were reckless, yes. Dangerous, yes. But they were also proof that resistance was possible. Where fear had ruled for centuries, hope began to flicker. Alien leaders sent secret envoys to human worlds, offering resources, information, even soldiers. Humanity accepted, not as rulers, but as equals. And together, they began to prepare for war. The predators noticed. Their raids grew harsher, their fleets larger. They wanted to crush the humans before this spark of resistance spread too far. But the spark had already become fire. For every colony they attacked, a dozen more rose in defiance. For every life taken, 10 more swore revenge. Humanity's fury was not silent, it was loud, burning across the stars. One battle became legend. The predators targeted a mining world, believing its rich ores too valuable to lose. They brought an entire fleet, confident that no human defense could withstand them. But when they arrived, they found not miners, but hunters. The humans had transformed the planet into a trap. Entire mountain ranges collapsed on predator troops. Rivers of fire erupted from hidden fuel lines. And when the predators tried to retreat, human ships cut them off, striking with reckless precision. The predators lost half their fleet that day. The rest fled into the void, humiliated. The galaxy watched in shock. Never before had the predators lost so much in one battle. Never before had prey turned the hunt against the hunters so completely. From that moment, no one doubted humanity's strength again. But what truly terrified the predators was not the human weapons or their traps. It was their mindset. Humans did not fight for survival alone. They fought for vengeance, for loyalty, for each other. They fought with songs on their lips, laughter in their throats, and fire in their eyes. To the predators, it was madness. To the galaxy, it was inspiration. In the council chambers, debates grew heated. Some species urged caution. Humanity's recklessness could drag the entire galaxy into war. Others argued the opposite. Without humanity, no one would ever stand against the predators. A track general famously declared, "They may be strange, they may be dangerous, but I would rather march beside a human than cower alone." Meanwhile, among the predators, unease grew. Their leaders gathered in secret, snarling at each other over the rising threat. "They are fragile," one roared. "They are weak." "But they do not fear us," another answered. And that truth silenced the room. For predators had always thrived on fear. Without it, what were they? On the human side, momentum only grew. Resistance cells spread across the galaxy, many led by humans but joined by alien allies. They struck at supply lines, sabotaged predator strongholds, and ambushed their fleets. Each act of defiance carried the same message: you are not invincible anymore. The predators had once been hunters. Now, for the first time in history, they began to feel hunted. The galaxy could sense it. Something was changing. The old order of terror was crumbling. And at the heart of this storm stood humanity, scarred, defiant, and unbroken. The predators had hunted every species, but now humanity was rising, and they were not content with mere survival. They were preparing for the final hunt. The predators had never known fear. For generations they believed themselves untouchable, beasts chosen by the stars to dominate all life. But after facing humanity, that belief began to crack. The more they fought, the more they realized something terrifying. Humans did not just resist. They adapted. They learned. They became stronger with every battle. In the beginning, predator commanders laughed at human tactics, calling them chaotic and reckless. But chaos soon turned into nightmares. Humans fought differently from every other species. They were not predictable. They did not follow the same patterns. When predators expected retreat, humans attacked. When predators expected surrender, humans set traps. When predators thought victory was theirs, humans turned defeat into something far worse. A lesson. One predator warlord told his hunters, "Do not corner them. A cornered human will not run. It will bite." And he was right. Every battle left scars not only on humans but on predators too. They began to hesitate before raids, questioning their strength for the first time. Veterans whispered in private dens about the eyes of humans, eyes that burned not with fear, but with defiance. Some hunters even admitted the unthinkable. They respected their prey. The galaxy watched all of this with wide eyes. Civilizations that once bowed to predators now looked to humans with awe. In council chambers, arguments shifted. It was no longer, should we fear the predators? But should we trust the humans? A reptilian diplomat stood before the council and said, "They are reckless. They are strange. But I would rather see humans fight beside us than against us." His words echoed, and for the first time, leaders began to wonder if humans were not simply a new force, but the force that could change everything. Respect grew, even among enemies. There was a battle on the frozen world of Devara that became legend. Predator fleets outnumbered the defenders 5-1. The defenders prepared for slaughter. But then the humans arrived. They did not outnumber the predators. They did not even match their strength. Yet they fought like storms unleashed. Entire mountains collapsed under carefully placed charges. Predator war beasts were lured into traps where humans fought them with nothing but knives and fire. By the time the predators retreated, they left behind thousands of their own dead. The defenders, alien refugees who had once cursed humanity's recklessness, wept in gratitude. They had seen the impossible, predators fleeing in terror. From that day on, they no longer called humans reckless. They called them saviors, but not every species was ready to accept them. Some feared humanity's unpredictability more than they feared predator claws. If they can turn the predators into prey, one counselor warned, what will they do to us when we stand in their way? The question haunted the galaxy. Respect and fear became tangled together. Humanity was no longer seen as prey, but neither were they trusted completely. They were a wild card, a force no one could predict. Even among the predators, voices began to change. In their hidden war councils, young hunters questioned their elders. If humans fight as we do, one asked, are they not predators too? Silence followed that question. For deep down, every predator already knew the answer. Humanity was no prey. Humanity was something else. Something dangerous, something equal. The predator lords grew desperate. They launched larger attacks, hoping to crush humanity's spirit once and for all. But instead, every attack taught humans more. Every defeat only sharpened their claws. And soon the hunters realized the truth. The harder they struck, the stronger humans became. Fear had turned into respect. Respect had turned into dread. The galaxy's greatest hunters had always ruled by terror. But terror no longer worked, because humans did not bow to terror. They turned it into fuel. In the darkest chambers of the council, an elder finally admitted what many had already seen. The predators are not the only hunters anymore. Humanity has joined their ranks. Across the stars, that admission spread. No longer did anyone say humans are prey. No longer did anyone call them weak. Now they were spoken of as hunters in their own right. Hunters of predators. And the predators, who once believed themselves invincible, now faced the nightmare they had never imagined. The hunted had become hunters, and the galaxy knew the balance of power would never be the same again. The predators had ruled for so long that they could not imagine an end. For centuries, they had stalked the galaxy like shadows, feeding on fear, killing without consequence. But now fear no longer belonged to them. It belonged to humanity. The predator lords gathered in their fortress world, furious and afraid. They had lost too many hunts. Too many fleets had returned in shame. Too many hunters spoke the human name with unease. The Council of Predators decided there could be no more hesitation. Humanity had to be crushed in one final, overwhelming strike. They sent the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Armies of beasts, warships like floating mountains, weapons, designed to erase entire worlds. They would descend upon Earth itself, burn it to ashes, and scatter its people across the void. The predators promised themselves this would end the madness once and for all. But they had underestimated humanity for the last time. When the predator fleet arrived in human space, they expected confusion, panic, surrender. Instead, they found silence. Empty star systems, quiet stations, no signals. It was a trap, but they did not realize it until it was too late. The humans had been waiting. From the darkness of space, fleets emerged, small compared to the predator armada, but fast, coordinated, relentless. Human warships struck like wolves, not in lines but in packs. They did not meet the predators head-on. They cut them apart piece by piece, mines detonated in asteroid fields. Ambushes struck from moons and gas clouds. Every time the predators tried to regroup, humans were already there, turning their strength into weakness. The predators had always been hunters, but now they were prey. On the flagship of the predators, the High Lord roared in rage as human ships darted through his fleet. He shouted, "They are nothing but bipeds. Fragile animals, how can this be?" But no answer came. His hunters were dying, not from superior numbers, but from superior will. Humans fought like no species ever had before. They sacrificed their ships to drag predator battleships into suns. They rammed into enemy cruisers with war cries that echoed across the void. They fought with fire in their blood, with madness in their eyes, and with something the predators could not understand: joy. For humans did not just fight to live. They fought to win. They fought to prove that no one, not even the galaxy's greatest predators, could claim dominance over them. Hours turned into days. The predator fleet crumbled. Their fortress ships fell silent. Their war beasts scattered. One by one, their lords were hunted down. On the final day, Captain Reyes, the same scarred soldier who had once stood on a burning colony, stood at the front of humanity's flagship. His voice thundered across the channels, carried to predator ears. "You hunted every species. You ruled with fear. But now you face us, and we are not afraid. We are the hunters now." His words were followed by fire. Human fleets struck the final blow. The predator flagship shattered into burning fragments, its High Lord silenced forever. When the battle was over, silence filled the galaxy. For the first time in history, the predators were gone. Their reign had ended, not with surrender, but with extinction. The news spread faster than light. Across alien worlds, slaves cried in joy, free at last. Refugees lifted their voices in song. Civilizations that had lived in terror for centuries looked up at the stars with hope, and they all knew who to thank: humanity. But even in victory, humanity did not boast. They did not claim thrones or demand tribute. They returned to their colonies, their allies, their families. When asked why they fought so fiercely, they gave the same answer as always: because we had to. Yet the galaxy knew the truth ran deeper. Humans had proven something no one else dared to believe: that even the mightiest hunters could fall. That fear was not eternal. That the weak, when united and unbroken, could become unstoppable. And so, the galaxy admitted it at last. Humans were not prey. Humans were not fragile. Humans were the hunters who hunted the hunters. In the ruins of the Predator Empire, alien children whispered new stories before sleep. Not of claws in the dark, but of the strange bipeds who turned terror into fire, who laughed in the face of death, who fought until the galaxy was free. They hunted every species, the children said with wide eyes, until humanity hunted them back. And somewhere, far across the stars, humanity prepared for the next chapter. Because the predators had been the first to fall, but they would not be the last.